Okay, so
It's awesome.
Rachel completely uploads or does whatever the fuck it's doing. I'll
Yeah,
just leave it on for a half an hour after we friggin'
dude, it
finish
sucks
up.
dick. It sucks dick when this thing chops off, and I have somebody on here because it's so hard to line this up right.
Right, right.
Anyway, here we go, Chris. So
Let's do it, man.
we're recording. Chris Kramer. What are you? What do we call you? Are you a researcher? You Bigfooter? You a squatcher?
I,
What do we ever refer to people?
I learned a long time ago, about 6 years ago, the term researcher started to get a negative flavor. So I said, geez, I don't want to be affiliated with that word anymore. So it just transitioned into experiencer, which is basically a kind way of saying researcher, but don't call me that.
How about a knower? I like being called a knower.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't
I'm
like
just another bozo on the bus, man.
yeah. I don't like believer. Believer. I don't like that one. But that's just me. Believer. No, not a
Knower
belief.
works too.
It's not a belief. You either know or you don't, right? How long have we been
Knower
talking
works
already?
too.
We've been on here a freaking hour bullshitting before we hit record.
An easy hour. It went by in like 10 minutes, man. It really
So we
did.
got all our politically incorrect shit out. We're done that.
Yeah.
Now we just talk about what the hell's been going on.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm trying to make sure I don't curse too much once we went live, so I think we're good.
Who gives a shit? You're from Philly. Who gives a shit?
This is true.
Yeah.
It's hard for me not to.
All right. So easy way to start off is just when did you figure out there's some weird shit going on that you weren't taught about in school? Meaning these beings.
I had back when I was 25 years old, I was living on the border of Wisconsin and Minnesota, and I'd grown up in Philadelphia in a pretty urban environment, and so hunting, like the outdoors, was not really a huge part of my family's culture at all, But I was not like that, and I loved being outdoors. And I had a friend of mine that was a big gun guy and a big hunter out in Wisconsin, and he invited me to go hunting with him for the first time. So I went and got my license. I got it all squared away, and he took me out to a place in like south, kind of central western Wisconsin, known as the Wisconsin Dells. His family had like a cabin up there for a couple generations, and so he took me out hunting. And I've told this story so many times. I'll make it kind of brief, but he put me in a stand. He went up onto a ridge. He said, "Listen, I'm going to try and beat some deer down to you, see if you can get a shot." So I'm sitting there, kind of like the bottom of this ravine, and perpendicular to me there was a creek bed that dropped down a hill, and then the creek was down there, and it was like November, right around Thanksgiving, I think. It's chilly, it's cold, there's snow on the ground. And long story short, about an hour goes by, and I freezing my ass off, and I watched this. I watched what looked like a guy in a black hoodie come up from the creek bed about 30 yards in front of me, and the thing it stepped over this like snow berm, and it turned around and stared at me. And it was not a guy in a black hoodie, and I got a good 15-second visual capture of this thing, and yeah, it turned around and it walked right back down from where it came, and my buddy came down about 45 minutes later, and I'm in shock, and I don't even know how to have that conversation with him, but I just asked. I said, Tim, I got to ask you, have you ever, And he looked at me and he answered. He said to me, "Oh, so you saw him then, did you?" And that opened up like a whole new line of questioning, man. Like apparently this entity, this Sasquatch had been in his family lore for like a couple generations. Like his grandfather used to talk about the wild man of the hills, and his uncle had seen it, his grandfather had seen it, he'd never seen it, but I'd seen it, and I was 25 years old. That was 33 years ago. And
there's snow on the ground.
Oh yeah, and there was no tracks because we looked. There was no tracks, nothing. There was nothing there because because I went to show him where it was, and there was no like physical indication that this had even happened.
30 yards. And, so you see its face?
I did. It looked like a 8-foot gorilla with a man's face is what it looked like. Dark hair, flesh was pretty kind of like me, but like a longer kind of a beard that kind of went down into its chest, and it didn't give me like a menacing look, or even a startled look. It just acknowledged that I was there, and it just turned around and it walked right back down from where it came. And that was that was my introduction into the Sasquatch world, and I've
It's
been
pretty good,
around it.
man.
And some, yeah, and I figured out pretty quick. This is long before the internet, Google, and YouTube, and I figured out pretty quick that no tracks. Like I realized something really odd had happened, and I think over time, the ability to research or just look into the topic became a lot easier with the digital age, and I was able to connect with other people and to kind of take a deeper dive, and I've done that most of my adult life, in some form or fashion, and that
Wow.
was that was how it started for me. Yeah,
So, how many times have you seen him?
I have had so I've had multiple sightings up on the Mogollon Rim in Arizona. When I moved out here and I linked up with the other guys from the Arizona Four, um, they had stumbled upon a couple locations way out, like way wilderness up on the rim that were otherworldly. And over the course of the last 5 years, I've had personally three solid daytime physical sightings with these guys, uh, and not all in the same location either. It's been when see some of these things come out of my mouth, Steve, I look at it like objectively from like 30,000 feet and go, dude, you belong in a rubber room, man. But I mean, it is what it is. I mean,
We are in a
it's
rubber
really
room.
incredible, right?
The whole
Right
world's
where
in
I
a rubber
belong.
room now.
It's right where I belong, man. So I've had over the last 5 years, I've had multiple sightings, encounters, experiences. I've had a lot of the more paranormal aspects of these things manifest in my life. Um, None of it bad, which is not always common with this. Like you talk about, I've heard you say many times, like, it's like there's those that are out here saying everything's kumbaya, and then there's quite the opposite that goes on in the Sasquatch world, where there's menacing, scary, terrible encounters, and I believe that, and I don't believe it's a perception thing, or oh, you just didn't know you were walking. I think there's good ones and bad ones. I don't know anything with a surety, and I run from anybody that speaks with a surety in this. But I think we've been really really blessed to have come across maybe some more benevolent entities
Have
than
you ever?
you hear. Right? Exactly. And so yeah, I mean, there's a litany of experiences that go with this thing. These guys that I was able to link up with are just some of the great. They're all fantastic outdoorsmen, and they taught me everything I know about the outdoors. They really did.
Right
And
on.
avid hunters and different spiritual beliefs. So we don't all agree on everything. That's for sure. That's one of the best parts about being a member of this crew is that we've got an ordained minister and an atheist and everything in between, man. It's cool.
Perfect. Right? It's like, no big
Right
deal.
on.
You
No,
don't agree.
yeah,
It's okay. It's okay. So
yeah,
you never
totally.
felt terror? You never felt sheer terror?
I have never had a menacing experience out there, and I don't think that. So I don't think any of the four of us in the current iteration of the Arizona Four have ever had a negative encounter, but we've had lateral strange things happen that were a little unsavory for sure. She's about 4 years ago. So here's what I think. I think that when you start getting communication from these things, and Carper used to talk about this, it gives them license to maybe see what's going on where you live. You know what I mean? And I had one time where I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning in my bedroom in Phoenix. This is before I moved up to the mountains, and there was something sitting in the corner, black, scared the heck out of me. Uh, I reverted back to my very faulty Christian roots and tried to rebuke it in the name of Christ. It laughed at me and it left, and that's the only time I've ever had anything that was. And it wasn't one of these guys. I don't believe that. I think it was. I think that once you open up that door a little bit, maybe it attracts other. There's a lot of other stuff ripping around out there, Steven. You know it.
You
It's in
got
all
that
these
right.
dudes, man. There's a lot of weird stuff all going on simultaneously, man. I think that I attracted something like that one time, but I've never, and none of us have had. I've had like really, like I know it's not for everybody, but I've had some of the most incredible, uplifting things happen to me as a result of being around this thing, especially in the last 5 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Just insane stuff.
Well, got one quick. We're going to get into all that, but one quick question. So I don't think that Scott was dealing with just these beings, Sasquatch. I think there's a little more going on there.
I agree. I agree. I think that you know, I think one thing that I think I believe is that what you bring into some of these locations is what's going to be reflected back at you. And I think that if you bring in, like, I hate to, I mean, I'm going to get crucified in your chat at some point. Like, I
Who
am a
cares?
faulty Christian, right? But I don't adhere to every biblical narrative related to this stuff. I just think that there's more to it. But I know, the biblical creationists are always going to go down the demonic, angle with these things, and they're not of God, and they're whatever. I don't know that to be true. But I think with Scott, I think that he came into that with a more of a closed biblical presence. And I think that he had that reflected back at him. And I think you draw that kind of fear energy maybe back, reflected back at you, because he had some very unnerving things happen in his home, like crazy things going on. And none of us are like that. Like, we don't project fear. We try and be humble and as authentic, present authentically, I go in there, man. I've robbed, cheated, and stolen in my life. Like, I am a very faulty human being, and that's trying to be a better person, right? And um, I think that's been reflected back at me. I think that
Right.
that energy of humility, which is, like it used to be a foreign concept to me, like humility, honesty, things that, those were things that were learned behaviors and things that I had to learn to do.
Well, I'm
And
pretty
I
sure.
think that that's
I'm
been
pretty sure.
reflected back.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good, man.
I'm pretty sure our consciousness creates our whole world.
I agree.
A lot of it.
I agree.
But
And
what
you draw that, you trap that,
Yeah.
I think you do.
So another quick example topic or whatever, just to mention. Do you remember? Did you see that guy that got interviewed by the late Carrie Arnold? Carrie Arnold, remember that guy who lost the plot? It's like he's a broken shell of a human being. What do you think happened there?
I saw that he went out to a cabin somewhere in Georgia, and he had this absolutely horrific encounter. Um,
Allegedly,
you know
he
what?
told him flat out that he's prey. Humans are prey, and this is our game. And I'm like,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah,
What the
yeah.
hell is that about?
I don't know, man. I looked at that. Okay, personally, I looked at that with a jaundiced eye, only because I felt like it was the interview was so over the top, and he was over the top. I couldn't tell if it was authentic or not. And I don't want to dismiss anybody's authenticity. I just don't know. I don't know. I think that the story was horrifying. Like, the fact that he was pinned in a chair, and I remember the whole thing well. I knew Curry a little bit, so I used to pay attention to him on occasion, and that dude was on one of these shows, right? Like Expedition or something down in Florida. I remember he was on this show. I don't know. Like, I've heard a lot of that. I've heard a lot of really negative, menacing experiences too. And that just because it hasn't been my experience doesn't necessarily mean that it's not true. I believe it to be true. I
Yeah.
don't know. Jury was still out on that one from you. I couldn't call that.
I know. Well, it's hard to if you try to. I look at everything from all different angles. Like, I never thought that guy might not be legitimate. I mean, if you're going to be on a few shows, got a YouTube channel, you're doing whatever you're doing, you're researching, and you got camouflage clothes on and doing the whole 9 yards, and then what would make you all of a sudden absolutely annihilate everything and come across as an absolute broken shell of a human being and then disappear? Huh? What you talking about, Willis?
He dipped off the face of the earth. I mean, there may be. I think in hindsight, you may be right. Like, that looks to add a little authenticity to the whole thing for sure. I don't know. That was a scary situation. I've heard a lot of those. I think one thing I'm going to bring up is that I know you're like me. I think the best ground zero for history and for some information about these guys is always with the First Nations folk, right? I mean, 100% it is. And I know that, I don't, so my experience with that, in the Southwest, it's primarily Navajo, and Apache, Hopi, and there is no consensus amongst them about what these things are. Even with the Navajo, especially, which is the largest population, have the biggest reservation in the world. I mean, they're huge, right? and they don't all agree. I've talked to, and Navajos that I respect. I've made some inroads with them since I've lived here, and there's those that believe that that these guys are a good, you know, benevolent spiritual entity, and then there's ones that say the same thing that they say up north: stay away from them. They're not good. But again, the lack of consensus to me is interesting. You know what I mean? And every single one of these tribes, from Narragansett, Rhode Island, up north, west, southwest, they all have a hairy man story. Every single one of them do.
Oh yeah.
So take that and put it in the bank. I mean, that's that to me is evidence of some kind. You know what I mean? Not that I even give a crap about evidence anymore.
well, but every continent, every freaking continent, every single country. Like us realizing that a lot of people. I'm not saying it's to be a dick, but the First Nations in North America don't own this topic. It's because I don't see there's no differentiating in race, human being races between what you experience with these people. They don't give a shit. They don't care if you're purple.
Agreed. Australia, Asia. I mean,
Norway,
we've been
Russia.
We've been down the how to hunt, right? We've been down the how to hunt rabbit hole for a minute, and so we've gotten to hear the perspective worldwide. You know what I mean? And some incredible backstory on some of these things. So you're right.
Like if we were based in Sweden right now, who would we be hearing more from right now if we were based in Sweden?
Exactly. I'm going to go with you anyway. Honestly, I don't know that many other platforms that have the worldwide reach that How to Hunt seems to have these days. I hear. I've met a few European squatchers, for lack of a better term, and but they're all talking about the same thing. I know a gal that lives in Denmark, and she's got a lot of interesting things going on out there. You know what I mean?
Belgium, UK, Ireland, Sweden, right? Norway,
absolutely,
everywhere,
absolutely. I got a buddy in Scotland, another guy that just gets some of the most insane things happening. You know what I mean? And there's commonalities amongst all of it, and then there's also noted differences too. Like none of it doesn't always all line up. There's just that common thread of experience that goes through it, but the experiences aren't all the same for sure.
No. But I like to. I got a lot of respect for First Nations people here in North America. I got a lot of respect for everybody, but for me, nobody owns it. Nobody owns this topic. You know what I mean? It's like everybody's having experiences across the board that are very similar. So. But anyway, getting back to that though, all my First Nations friends here, they all say, don't do it. Don't talk to them. We were told not to talk to them. Don't talk to them.
I believe that. And then, even following some of the How to Hunt contributors, like the guy who wrote all of Mr. Ash's diaries, those are some alarming stories. Like some of the stories. And they're some of the most authentically cool journals you could ever ask for. That stuff was fascinating. I wonder what happened to him. I haven't seen anything from him in a minute. You know what I mean? But he, some of the stories about, remember the trappers that came into the village and then they sent them packing, and then they heard 3 days later, and they were told what was going on, the screams in the house. But yet there was also good things like the villagers being poisoned, right? And they found out that after they fasted, went out and kind of had a spiritual experience with one of these guys, came out of the woods and said, it's fish kill in your streams. It's just causing this. You know what I mean? And you need to move. So, there was a good and a bad element to it, which kind of matches up to what I was just talking about. Like it doesn't seem to be like a hard line of good or evil with any of this, No.
And then you got one the other one that I always remember stands out was that he's a Jorge or George. I think it's George pronounces his name. And he was in the military in South Africa, and they're going after those guys in that swamp in the middle of the night. And all they know is carnage was going on, and what was remaining of those rebels, whatever they were, they came running out of the woods towards them to get saved.
Yep, and getting decimated in there. Some of these stories that come across this platform, are incredible and authentically believe. I'm sure there's the occasional fiction writer that pops in here, but I always said
but we need that. You have to have it. I agree.
Yeah,
like people say, you just read anything. You read anything. You believe anybody. I go, first off, I don't tell anybody what I fucking believe because it's not about me, and I'm not a leader of any way of how anybody should believe or think. But
right on.
I always say we really do need bullshitters to come here so that we know. So we have something,
Well,
you got to exercise your own gut. You need to get into tune with your own intuition because you already know. When you're hearing this, dude, you know if it's horse shit or not. I do. But we need them.
yeah, and the more you hear, the more you can kind of discern that too. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
when you start, I mean, I've heard some outlandish claims on how to hunt in other areas as well. I mean, and honestly, some of the stuff that's happened to us on paper being filtered through your channel is outlandish. I mean, some of it is absolutely outlandish, and yet, where else are you going to go? You know what I mean? Where else can you go to even, bring this to the public and make it part of the kind of the zeitgeist of the consciousness of people? Like this thing has definitely swifted from way fringe to way more mainstream in the last 7 or 8 years. It has, and
Oh, yeah.
platforms like this, it has. I mean,
Yeah.
social media is abundant with it at this point. That used to be really fringe, and it's not really fringe anymore. But then, what is? They're holding UFO hearings in Congress. I mean, what's fringe anymore? And what's not believable?
Well, courage is contagious. Courage is contagious, right?
Right on. I mean, it inspired me and the rest of us to kind of come out of the woodwork a little bit. You did specifically. This is where we first started dumping our stories.
Yeah.
Because
I remember before, because I was just trying to get true hunting knowledge and outdoor knowledge shared, and I put all my money into trying to build that app platform that shared knowledge without sponsorship and without douchebags, and that was always been my theme all my life. And that's like when you're trying to do that, and then you got people hounding you. Hey man, you got any Sasquatch stories? I'm like, I need to crack this open like I need a hole in the head, right? But then, honestly, though, after when I had lunch, that Dr. John Bendernagel bought me breakfast years ago, and my dad, we had a good conversation. And then I thought about it, I'm like, wait a minute, man. My grandfather crawled in that sheet metal tube full of bombs in his mind and to save everybody here, and he died scared of all you fuckers. And that's what made me go, that's it. Yeah, I seen it ramming up your ass if you don't like it.
I remember. I was there when the switch got flicked, man.
Yeah, and then he was either going to absolutely destroy me or not, but it's truth. So, and I've learned over my lifetime, it doesn't matter. If it's true, you can't get crushed. If it's true, you can't. You can't. I'm living proof. If I could have done any move to destroy me and what I was trying to do, bring up the topic of Sasquatch, right? Publicly.
Right. No, like as a professional hunting guide, I mean,
right?
Honestly,
you want to go in the woods with me? You know what I mean? Want to go camp with me for a couple weeks remote and trust everything I say? But yeah, that's what I've learned over the years is truth wins, no matter how outrageous it is. If it's truth, it'll come out on top.
You know what? It's so true. And I feel like, like what we've done is on a much smaller scale, and we're unharmed. We're doing what we do anyway. I mean, we're still not super public with it. I think we've kind of opened up the possibility to that a little bit more. But
you guys are on your own ride, right? You guys are on your own ride.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm still passionate about it, though. I mean, as passionate as I've ever been.
If you guys all of a sudden turn around and start selling camping trips for $400 a weekend, that might be a red flag.
Buddy, we do the opposite. We get asked on a regular, can I please? And you know what? We learn through trial and error that that's just not our spot, man. We don't want to do that. We don't want to. We're not here to. If you're looking for visual evidence and pictures, and we've all done that goofy shit. Like, you can't be in this for 30 some odd years and not, start taking pictures in little red circles. We've done all that, all of it. You know what I mean? Like, it's pointless.
You know how much money I could make if I started selling camping trips?
Buddy, these days, right? Yeah.
Oh my God. But I always said to everybody,
bigger boats, sir.
Yeah. I always said, if you ever see me on a reality TV show or selling a camping trip, you have permission to kick me in the balls as hard as you can when you see me in the street. Okay, just
you might hear me coming down the gravel driveway in a Harley.
Oh God. So what do you think? Who put my knife in my backpack?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I think, when you're closing in on 400,000 people paying attention to you, that opens up a lot of doors, right? So I don't know. I'm assuming that it's probably a public figure in this, that maybe with a little bit of resource
I don't know,
that
man. It's no human being put my knife in my backpack.
no.
No.
Oh no, the knife back in your backpack.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. I gotta re-start. No, I think they did it. We've had similar things happen to us,
So I was gonna ask, you guys had weird shit like that go down?
buddy. So the night that I had the healing happen on my hand, right? So we had gone out. I just gotten out of the hospital. I just had my last surgery. I had a finger amputated because it wasn't healing right on top of everything else. And so two of the guys from the Arizona 4 were like, Chris, why don't you come out with us? And I'm like, guys, like I don't think this is a good idea. I said, my arms are this weird sling. I'm in an extraordinary amount of pain still. I can't even like pull my pants up. You know what I mean? And Kev says to me, listen, I'll go throw a 10-man tent up. We'll head out to the Sierra Anches. We got a spot out there north of Roosevelt Lake.
And we'll pull your pants down for you.
Right now, avoid that. Right.
Want to go camping?
What happens in Crazy Town stays in Crazy Town.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we get out there and there's really nothing going on. Maybe a little bit of like this weird twinkle light thing that seems to occur on occasion when they're around, maybe, but it was a quiet night. And so I go to lay down on the cot. We had a 10-man tent, and I'm in, and Kev's in on the other side. And I get in the bag, and something's pinching on my back. I'm like, what the hell is that, right? So I reach around, and it's like this, like tennis ball sized, really unique rock, like just a strange rock, right? And I go to Kev, and I said, "Are you effing with me? Did you put this in the sleeping bag?" And he looks at it, and goes, "Let me see that." And I hand it to him, and he goes, "Do you know what this is?" And I didn't remember, but about 3 years before, Kevin had been gifted this really, I tried gifted, left this really bizarre rock on the front seat of his truck. It just showed up there, and it's a unique stone that isn't found in the geography of the Mogollon Rim. It's got turquoise, and it's really beautiful, and it never leaves the console of his truck, like ever. It's been in there for years, and it had been placed in my sleeping bag. And like we goof with each other, but we never hoax each other because if we don't trust each other in the veracity of what we say,
you got nothing.
It's worthless. It's worthless. And so that was the precursor to the night that I had the healing performed on my shoulder, arm, and hand, and that was how it started. So very kind of similar to the knife being put back in your backpack. There's no explainable, discernible reason why it happened, especially the time period from the time you lost that knife until it showed back up for you. So
12 miles in 9 months.
Okay, so how else could that have happened? These guys seem to be able to, maybe not have to obey the laws of physics like we do, and maybe they seem to be able to do some things that we can't do or forgot how to do. I don't know, but yeah, I've had that happen.
Crazy. I know. Well, I'm going back up there. I'm going back. We're leaving August 27th to go right back up there, and I lost the bolt to my rifle there last fall.
Well, it may show back up in about 9 months in your backpack. You just.
I know. It's kind of like, all right.
I would love to see that happen.
Well, how do you, like, it's in the back of my head. Obviously, why wouldn't it be in the back of my head? You know what I mean? But whatever happens, it happens. We'll see. And if it does, I'm just going to, that's another thing too. Like, when you guys, have you ever, like lately, I'm just kind of like thinking, all right, I'm just going to go out there, sit on a log, and let's just hash this shit out. What do you want to share with me? Can you talk to me? What can you share with me? You know what I mean? I don't expect to get any results, but if it is going to go down, it's probably going to go down up there where that knife shit went down, I'm thinking.
That's probably a pretty good location for it. Okay, let's crack open the telepathy stuff. How that got turned into the term mind speak when it only applies to Bigfoot and the cryptid community. I don't know. It's
Ah,
telepathy to me.
why
Whatever.
did a bright
You know,
light get turned into an orb?
exactly. We're just, you know, picking at semantics here. So I've had that communication. We all have, except for one of us. And um, it was nothing that we ever sought out. Like I didn't go out there trying to talk to these guys. And none of us did. None of us initially ever tried to initiate that type of dialogue, you know? And so when it started to happen when we put the cameras down and we put the audio equipment away and we stopped forensically researching and just trying to be immersed in the experience of it. You know what I mean? And still document what was happening, but not quite as clinically as I think we initially used to. And we started to get voices in our head, for lack of a better term. And it started out kind of small, but like if three of us, we're very rarely all four of us out at the same time. That does happen, but usually it's two or three of us in some different iteration of that. And we started to get messages. And so then we started to vet them because they were silent, but they were internal. And so we would do things like, what did you just hear? And then we would do a three count and then we'd repeat it back and they'd be identical. Identical. You know what I mean? And so and then that transitioned into writing them down and sharing them with each other. So there was ways that we could vet these things, you know what I mean? And so then we realized, yeah, this is actually going on, you know, and it's you know, I've heard so many people talk about their experiences with the mind speak phenomenon, you know, and it seems to manifest for us in really two different ways. Um, I've had visual impressions planted, you know, kind of projected onto me, and I've had actual a voice in my head, and I've always been that always made me nervous, and because I used to pay attention to Scott and some of these guys, and I think you have to develop a degree of discernment about what's actually talking to you, you know, and over time I've come to trust it a little bit more. I still don't initiate it, you know. I've never really initiated it. I've had two profound ones happen in my life that were so last May, not this past May, May before, and I wrote into you about this. I was driving up to the Mogollon Rim. I was meeting with just Kevin and I, Kev Keeney, who's kind of we had a founder of the Arizona Ford be him, right? And we were meeting just for a 3 or 4 nighter at one of our spots, you know, and summertime, it was May, it's beautiful to be up there. And my brother calls me, and my father had passed, and calls to let me know that my dad died back east in Cape May, New Jersey. And so I'm off to the side of the road, and I call my family, I call my kids, I'm like, so your grandfather died, blah blah blah, and and now I'm sitting there. I'm in Pumpkin Nuts, Arizona. I mean, I'm in the middle of friggin' nowhere, and I'm like, what do I do? You know what I mean? Like, the funeral won't be for another 10 days, and so I just decided to continue on. I'm thinking, okay, is there a better place to process this? You know, the death of my dad, than out in nature with one of my close friends, and just kind of, you know, just process it out. So I continue on. So I cut up onto the rim, and then you know where we're going, you have to have an off-road vehicle. You're not making it there. And I'm heading back, and I get to the crossroads of these two trails, and this is the most profound, loudest thing that's ever happened to me. And I get this. I stop at this cross section just for a minute, and I get this deep female voice in my head that says, "We mourn with you the loss of your father, and we celebrate that he is at peace with the Creator now." And I didn't
Oh,
generate that. Yeah, yeah. And I start shaking, you know, like I'd had control of my emotion. My dad and I had a complicated relationship, but we loved each other. You know, he was 91 and I had, you know, a lot of years with him, you know, and I, uh, that rattled me, you know, it utterly rattled me. And so I kind of, you know, I regained my composure because I started to weep a little bit. I mean, you know, it was heavy, and it was also unnerving, but it was also kind of consoling in its own way too, you know. And so that was the longest sentence that's ever been said to me by one of these guys. You know what I mean? And you know that night was an off the charts experiential night. Like it was just Kevin and me, and we were surrounded by a lot of this stuff going on around us, and it was almost felt like they were kind of like doing like a celebration of life um, for my dad. And I don't know that that's what it. I don't know that's what it was, but that's how I interpreted it. So when it comes to the mind speak things, there's a cautionary tale there too. So we had an older gentleman that was part of the Arizona Four for a long time that would never receive these things. And in hindsight, he was an atheist, and he wasn't a deeply spiritual man. And there is, without a doubt, and you've talked about this, a spiritual element to this that is undeniable. It really is. And he was very desperate to have that type of dialogue. This was the man that had been the BFRO guy that had left and realized that there was a lot more going on in this thing than some ape in the woods, right? And he was desperate for this communication, and he never received it. Not one time when we were out for the years that I was with him. And about 2 years ago, he started getting communication, but it was never in the woods. It would be at his home or when he's in bed and it happened at one point he's on an airplane, and it got really weird. It got weird. And so we actually tried to have a bit of an intervention with him, because Kevin actually, we went out and we asked, and they very clearly said, we're not talking to him. So what was talking?
Ooh.
We don't know. We don't know. And, he had, in the meantime, used the name of the Arizona Four to springboard himself into some public arena and started to gain a whole bunch of people and followers. And he's talking about this narrative that doesn't line up with what we've all experienced as a collective. And it got really strange. It got really weird. And I think we were all a little bit concerned. I think that if you intentionally perhaps open yourself up to try and have these dialogues, you may be getting spoken to by something you don't want to talk to, or you don't want in your life. Like we've all said, there's a lot of other things going on out there that not all of it is who we've interacted with, but they're there. And I think we had a grave concern that he was being spoken to by something else. You know what I mean? It was telling him, yeah, and it wasn't the nature of it wasn't the same thing that we were experiencing. It was freakishly long conversations in strange places, and that wasn't what was happening with us, and it was happening specifically with him.
No
Yet
shit.
he was the only one. He was the only one that was kind of desperate to have the dialogue. You know what I mean? I've never been desperate for it. I don't think I love it, but I acknowledge it, and I've been grateful for it on occasion. I think it's really unique. I think, I'm just a normal guy, other than this stuff in my life. I keep one foot in it, and I just got back from Vegas. I got to do stuff, I mean, I get to do other things besides this. And,
Yeah.
and, so I've always looked at these things like I don't understand why me. I don't think any of us really understand why us.
Who doesn't say that every couple days, right?
Right? Why me? But it's been such an incredible part of my life, the magic of it and the mystery of it. It gives me enthusiasm, and it's helped me grow spiritually in its own way too. So I have a lot of gratitude for it too.
So where's that guy now? Where's he at now?
He is no longer with us. We're still friends with him, but distanced. He didn't take that type of intervention well. No, he didn't. He didn't like it, and he's I think a little too enthusiastic with his own public voice now. And that's if you remember when we first started mailing you, I mean, we were anonymous. That's where the Arizona Four name came from as a hashtag, so you would know who we were specifically as an anonymous.
That's right.
And it's only been in the last 2 years where we've decided to maybe come out a little bit more publicly individually, but we're very committed to, being authentic to ourselves more than anything else. And I think that's, to be a little bit more public about it, for me to go on and speak with you, that's something I would have never done 2 years ago, Steve. I never would have done this. I felt like less of me was probably better. So I think what happened with this man that's not with us anymore is that he just kind of got a little too enthralled with the exposure and maybe some of the less savory aspects of why we're out here doing what we do. You know,
That
and
trashes
we
a lot
love
of
them. And
people. Isn't it funny how common that is? It trashes a lot of people get trashed when it comes to this topic.
They do, and I've seen it ruin lives, man. I've seen it, guys, and you've talked about this too. I know people that have taken such a deep dive that they've neglected their careers, their families, their children, their spouses, and have lost it all in this like search for something that may not be an end game to it. You know what I mean? And I have a friend
Yeah.
that lives in Colorado that has a huge YouTube channel, and he's been living in a fifth wheel tin can. Oops, we blew out for a second. I had a phone call pop up on my phone.
That's
You
all
got
right.
me? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, so, and you know, he has neglected every other aspect of his life and paid a horrific personal price for it. And for what? Some video? You know, like, you know, it's not like anybody's making a boatload of money going out there being a professional Sasquatcher. You know, like
Uh-oh.
where's the end game
Don't
of it?
tell me
It's
we
just this
lost you.
over
What the
consuming
hell? Hold on
thing
a
that I
minute.
don't ever want that to be what happens to us. You know
Trying
what I
to
mean? So
reconnect.
you know,
Come
we're
on.
very
This
aware of
can't be
that. You know,
happening.
it's such a challenge. Like you've talked about people on how to hunt that
Come
have had
on.
um things happen to shit.
I think it's my internet connection. I think I'm on Starlink. What are you on? Oh, you're upside. You're on the.
How do I
Gotta go
rotate?
spin it
How
one
do I
more time.
rotate this thing?
Yeah, because I tried to text you too, and the text didn't go through
Yeah,
on my
something
phone.
weird happened.
It's back
Wait on,
now.
I'll just stand it up like this. There we go. That'll work. Did we lose?
It's well, at least it's
Did
still
we lose
recording.
everything?
No, it says there's 53
Okay.
minutes on there, so
Okay.
it's still good.
Cool.
But
Where were we? What did you not hear? What did we lose? I was mind speaking
well,
stuff we were talking about.
yeah, we're talking about how it trashes people. You're talking about some guy in Colorado living in a trailer.
Yeah. And he had kind of abandoned everything else in his life, and just was 100% like chasing this whole phenomenon. And it just, you know, I've watched it destroy people's lives, you know, and I think that, you know, I still like to go to the beach in Mexico and do stuff with my kids. And like, I keep one foot in this, but man, I try and stay as firmly grounded in, you know, the other part of my world is this thing, you know, and walk that balance, you know, which is not always easy because I can remember when it was, this is a consuming thing, you know, like it's just the need to understand, the need to know, to realize, holy crap, there's something else going on out here that I have never heard of before, you know?
Yeah. I think too, what I noticed, I don't want to go too deep on that side of the topic, but it's like, even, I know who you're talking about, even that guy tried attacking me out of the blue. It's weird, what it does to them.
I've been out with him. I mean, I've known him for a long time. And he's from my neck of the woods, like originally where he grew up. And, you know, I've watched him change over 10 years as a person. And, you know, it's a little unnerving. Like I never want to be that, you know, I love being a member of my little Sasquatch group. You know what I mean? I love what we do. I love it. I
Yeah.
mean, I love the outdoors. I love being in nature. I love just the fantasticalness of this too. But man, I like going to the movies. I like going out and seeing a show at a you know, watching a rock band. You know,
Right.
I like hanging out and doing stuff with my kids and all that stuff. You know, so you know, I was like trying to maintain that balance is. I think it's super important in this. You know, there's so much more going on. I love what you say. Like you want to bite every apple in life, man. You know what I mean? And like heading to Southeast Asia, right?
Every
You know,
slice.
I feel like the same way. Like that inspires me to think the same way too. You know, I love new experiences. I love, you know, coming out of my comfort zone and doing things that, you know, I'm familiar with. I don't have to be great at them. I just want to try them out. You know what I mean? As much as I can, anyway.
Yeah. So I always try to always as much as I can, try to encourage people, make sure you do what you love to do. Make sure you do what you love to do above everything.
Right on. I do love to do this, though.
Right, it's true. Because if you don't, or even alive, if you're not doing what you love to do, what are you even doing here, man?
It's funny, since my hand accident, a lot of the things that I used to like to do are a lot more challenging, you know what I mean? But I've replaced it. There's so much more anyway, you know what I mean? Like I can't, my aspirations as a concert pianist have dimmed dramatically since this happened. But I've replaced it with so many other things, man. And I've a lot of gratitude for it.
Yeah,
What they,
that's good.
yeah, what they did was incredible too. It really was.
That's crazy. But I can see why that would cause a tsunami of people wanting to get a hold of you to go get healed.
The whole thing. It's definitely created a little subgenre of people that have looked for that, and 9 times out of 10, when somebody actually gets a hold of me, if I pick at the scab enough, that's their end game. Is they're looking for they've got some physical trauma or some ailment or illness that I actually had a guy just died from Washington that got a hold of me about 6 months ago, and he's 4-stage cancer. I don't remember what kind, and he was looking for a miracle. You know what I mean? And I mean, how do you break that down? Like, dude, I didn't ask for them to do anything like this, and I don't know why it happened, and I'm so grateful that it did happen, but I can't say, yeah, come on out with me and I'll bring it to the Bigfoot ER and we're gonna fix you. I mean, some of us have had things like that happen, not necessarily on the level that happened to me, and that was just it's the most miraculous thing that's ever happened in my life. Really, it's an incredible thing.
Have you guys ever tried to? Any of you guys ever tried and sat down and tried that approach I've been talking about lately? Like, okay, come on, just tell me what you know. Why can't you just sit here and throw back and forth some bullshit about your favorite places in the world where you like to eat? Anything. How come they can't? How come nobody seems to be able to pull off just a casual freaking conversation?
So here's what I think. I think that there are like.
Keep talking.
Yeah,
I can hear you. Keep talking.
There's some type of foundational. I think they've got some rules, and I don't know this. I don't speak with assurity, but I don't think they're allowed. For some reason, I don't think they're allowed to engage on that level in communication with people. Like when we've asked, and I've told you this, like we've come right out and asked them after the dialogue started to occur. Who are you? What are you? And the two things that we've ever gotten back are, we are you, and then we've also you're asking, who are you? As in, like, we should be asking who we are. You know what I mean? But those are the only, that's as fleshed out an answer as we've ever gotten. And we're lucky if we've even gotten that response. So, I mean, we've gotten some names, which is really bizarre, that we can refer to them as, which I think is really interesting. I haven't heard a lot of that in this, where they're actually telling you like what we can refer to them as, and there's a great story to that if you want to hear it, So over the course of the time that these guys have been out, and since I joined up with them, there's been a degree of trust, I think, and some rapport. That's what I think. And so we've been given some names that they refer to each other as, and they're not all the same, but there's a handful of them that have the suffix of the name of the term GAN, like GAN, in their names, right? And like there's an entity who's referred to as Terragan, Eadengan. There's a couple of them. It sounds so crazy when I say it. It is what it is. But not all of them have that. Not all of them have that suffix to their names. So about 4 years ago, we're walking through a museum in Payson, Arizona, which is a city that sits below the Mogollon Rim, kind of a mid-sized, kind of a big hunting area. The Rim's big outdoors area, right? And it talks about the history of the area of Payson and the Mogollon Rim itself. And the Mogollon Rim is Apache country. That's where a lot of the Apache wars took place, like Geronimo Bill up there. I mean, that's their spot. And actually, the last Apache battle happened up on the Mogollon Rim. And so there's this one.
Really?
Yep. So
That's
there's this
interesting.
one section that's devoted to the Apaches, and like a section of the museum that's about them. So we're reading this placard and it's talking about the Apache spiritual beliefs, right? And the Apaches revered these entities. They call them the spirits of the mountains and the forest. That they were benevolent and kind of looked over the Apache people, and they almost kind of worshipped them, but wasn't really like a worshipful thing. And the names of these entities are known as the GAN, which that was like an aha moment on steroids. So, and then I started to research the GAN, and there is a voluminous whole writing on what the GAN were, and they are talking about the hairy man. They're talking about Sasquatch, and the fact that these some of these entities that they seem to be, I guess, maybe spiritual elders or medicine man or whatever that is with them that are referred to as the GAN. Excuse me a second, I got to shut a door here.
Yeah.
That are referred to as as the GAN amongst themselves and have that suffix to their name. That was just an amazing coincidence that I don't think was a coincidence. So, that's an interesting First Nations historical line that matched up with some of the things that we've been experiencing as well. Yeah,
That's
right.
pretty cool. That'd be like huge. That'd be like
Oh,
a
it
huge one,
was.
actually. Be like,
It
whoa,
was.
what?
That was
Wow.
that was incredible. And we've had so one of the guys from the Arizona Four, before I moved to Arizona, who I knew online, but that's how we connected, had an encounter about 8 years ago with one of these GAN types, and it, for lack of a better term, they kind of it's the closest relationship or friendship or interaction I've ever heard of, and I witnessed some of this that I've ever heard in my life. And this entity was known as Yadengan, right? And we used to call him Indy for short because his name was just too much. So and so Kevin had um, a lot of interaction with this guy, and at the time that I got injured, I was in the hospital for 3 months with this whole hand thing. And
Whoa.
yeah, 3 months, 23 surgeries. And anyway, during that time,
Yeah.
Kevin and another one of the guys from the Arizona Four had a visitation in their home. And again, this is one of those things, man. You take it or leave it, but this is what happened. And they were told, we need you to come up to this one location that they'd had these interactions with. And so Kevin and this guy went up there, and in essence, they were witness to this Yaden had died, and they were witness to basically like this celebration of life in this enclosed spot that we go to, and they both bore testimony to the exact same thing. There was at least 30 or 40 of these things and all around them, and they were projecting feelings of grief and love and mourning, and they were able, and they they were asked to go because of, I guess, because of Kevin's um, relationship with this thing. And so after that happened, and we believe that this guy was kind of like the boss for whatever reason, and so a lot of our interaction after um, supposedly this entity had passed on really died out. Like we didn't have the same communication, the same type of interaction for for
Freaking
about a year and a
crazy, man.
half. Yeah, things just literally tailed off, and it was only so I was. Remember, I told you what happened when the female spoke in my head when my dad died. That was his spouse. That was his mate, and she kind of reconnected with us again. You know what I mean? And things started to pick up again, and we started having more interaction again, and more um, and more experiences with it. But that was That's such a crazy story.
Holy shit.
That's such a crazy story, man. Like, I haven't vocalized that one in public too often because it just sounds like such science fiction, but that's exactly what happened or how we discerned what happened, you know?
It just sucks ass that we've been raised to think of all this reality as being science fiction, or you're nuts. It's just, that frustrates me and actually makes me
Oh,
angry. You know what I mean? Like,
it's
why do you think, I don't want to get off topic, but why do you think we're not
it's
taught
done
the
by
truth?
design, Steve. I'm convinced of it. And I think it was a cultural design that's been projected and implemented onto us as a population. So what are the three foundations of humanity, right? It's mind, body, soul. So we can all increase our intellect and educate ourselves, and we can all go to the gym and we can all work out. But what is the one that gets stunted the most? It's always the soul aspect of humanity, right? Well, and I'm not talking about
Mm.
organized religion per se. That's just a vehicle for spirituality, right? But why is it that
Yeah.
anything that has a spiritual flavor, which is based many times on faith or things that we can't see around us that we're taught to be dismissive of, and yet, like being what we are, we have this inside track of knowing that exists, right? But we're such a small segment of the population. You bring this topic up at a dinner party somewhere, and they'll be calling the freaking hospital for you. You know what I mean? Like, seriously, right? Like,
Yeah.
So why is that? Is what you're
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about? It's this dismissive mindset about things that aren't concrete in your face, yet to me are just as real at this stage of my life as anything else. But it is definitely dumbed down and dismissed with with design and intent, I believe. And I don't know who does it, whoever the they are. Who knows, man? I don't know.
I know. It's like one thing, one big question. If I could, if, maybe it's a fantasy world, I don't know, but if I ever found myself sitting on a log having a conversation with somebody that wasn't human, I'd be like, who are you
Right.
scared of, man? Like, who tells you what you
That's
can
what
or
I
can't
said.
do?
Like, it seems like they have some sort of rules that they have to adhere to. Um, and who designs that? Like, who is that? Is it some biblical version of God and tenets that are put down for them? Is it something, you know, otherworldly? Like, we don't know. I don't pay a lot of attention to uh, these guys that come up with foundational backstories to what these guys are. That goes for Bob Duvall. That goes for a lot of these guys. The Anunnaki stuff, the Nephilim stuff. Like, I think there's kernels of truth in some of the biblical text and some of the Sumerian stuff and some of the other lateral kind of historical texts. But I don't think they're defining. I think they're all talking about something else. You know what I mean? And maybe they're all a lot of them kind of parrot each other and what they're saying. And I don't know what that is. I don't hang my hat on any of it, man. None of it.
Yeah, yeah. I think that each version might possibly have a couple of puzzle pieces in there that might mesh up with the other version puzzle
Oh
pieces.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Everything's somewhat got to be in
right.
relation
Like
somehow.
there's no way. Okay, look at it like objectively. When you read, say, Genesis 6, for example, and then you read maybe the Book of Enoch or the Book of Dreams or some of these other non-canonical biblical texts, and then you start looking at some of the interpretations of the Sumerian tablets, which are 5,000 years older than before there was any such thing as a Jew, let alone the Old Testament. And yet the names
No.
change a little bit, but the nature of the stories is almost verbatim. So that's something, right? Like that's something. Like they're all kind of talking about the same storyline, maybe a little bit vaguer in some areas, but without a doubt, there's a connection. You know what I mean? So you can beat your head against a brick wall trying to figure out what that connection is. And that's I know people that have invested decades into trying to decipher that stuff, and I still don't think they've got the answer. I don't think we're maybe meant to know it.
No, I think what I don't know. Like I'm trying to think of the other day. I was going to ask you guys too, and I'll ask myself my own question. Like, what keeps you going? What when you get to a certain flight of stairs in this ride, what do you do? You know what I mean? I've come to the conclusion easily that we are supposed to be, for me anyways, we're supposed to be enjoying the living shit out of this crazy ass awesome place. and helping each other. That's two things I know for sure. but what to do with this? I mean, how far do you go with it? What are you going to get out of it that enhances this lifetime? And I think for me, just one thing that keeps me going is the frustration I have when I see so many people who are passionate about life having it all stripped away from them from one experience because they didn't have a freaking clue that was really going on.
That was always bullshit. What I think what your like building block was for this. You know, I've always felt like, you know, guys like us that have had these, you know, like wonderful experiences, we're a minority. I think we are a minority, or you know, but I think like, you know, when you talk about, I mean, I don't know how many emails I've heard on how to hunt about these guys, and it ends with, and I'll never go back out there again, or I sold all my guns and my fishing gear, or, you know, I moved into the concrete jungle because I, you know, like I've heard that since you started and in other places as well.
Yeah. How about the one that really hits me deeply was the ones where they go, I'm the worst father in the world now.
Right, because they're so damaged by, you know, like,
can't let the kids out of their sight. Not allowed to go and don't go near those bushes. Right? Understandably.
I mean, I get it. That's trauma. You know, it's trauma. And I think
but it's bullshit. It's fucking bullshit that's happening to these innocent people. It's not fair.
Yeah, totally it is. I think, you know, and I've heard enough of that. Like, I don't discount a negative encounter ever. You know, like and that's not something that amongst the Arizona 4 we all agree with. There's a guy or two in the AZ4 that thinks that every negative encounter is a matter of perception, and that, you know, that you take what is being menacing as being intentionally malicious and fearful, when in essence you may not really understand what is actually going on with these guys. And I don't believe that. Right.
Keep talking.
I don't believe that. I think that, you know, I think the two things that I think I know are that these guys are a type of people, and they can do some things that we can't. But when it comes to the type of people, I think there's good ones, there's bad ones, and there's indifferent ones, just like humanity offers, you know. And I think that you don't know what you're going to get. That's something I always agree with Scott Carpenter about. Is that, you know, you don't know which kind of one you're going to run into if you run into one. And I believe that there's ones that have ill intent and would harm you if they could. And I think that we've been blessed that we haven't run into that, you know, because I thoroughly believe it's not all a matter of perception. I think there are ones that have the things out there that don't have your good intentions at heart, you know, as well as ones that maybe do.
Somebody tapped in my house the other night.
I don't know if that's a bad thing. I don't know. You know, like they know who you are at this point. You know, they're putting knives back into your back.
Oh, yeah.
I can't tell. I always laugh. Like, I'll look at your chat after a video, and Steven, the 12-minute 32 mark, there's a guy, one reaching out from behind a tree behind you, the little circle with pictures and all that. I'm like, oh, okay. You know, like, they're out there. They know you're there.
I know. For all we know, you know, people, I used to get, oh my God, so many emails with screenshots with about 50 red circles on them. I'm like, okay, enough.
Endless. You know what? And I give that stuff a pass, too, because I think it's part of the journey in this. I do. You know, like when you start to realize that maybe the camera's picking up some things that you don't see with a naked eye, and then you start seeing stuff that isn't necessarily pareidolia. There's something else there. That's a mind-expanding situation where you start to realize, and you start, every picture you ever took, you blow it up and look. I've done that. I don't know anybody that's it's part of the journey in here.
One thing though is, well, who are we to say that there isn't some of us that see things that we don't?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right? There could be some people out there that are clearly seeing these people around me or you guys or whatever, and we're just, who knows? You never know. I don't know. But it's a possibility.
So I got a good story for you if you want one. So there's a woman that worked for the Forest Service so where the Mogollon Rim is, there's 3 national forests that converge: Apache Sitgreaves, Coconino, and Tonto. Vast wilderness. It's handled by 3 different branches of the Forest Service, right? So there's this woman that lived out in Sholo, Arizona, which is kind of closer to the New Mexico line, up in the White Mountains, right at the edge of the eastern part of the Mogollon Rim. And she had a little ranch out there. She was a lifetime, she 35-year veteran for the Forest Service. And she didn't know jack squat about this topic at all. Well, she bought this little ranch to retire in. She had some livestock, some horses and chickens and goats and all the stuff, right? So she started having bizarre activity on this property that she bought. Chickens being killed, some other strange phenomenon going on. So she started looking into alternative ideas besides somebody messing with her, and she came across the guy that was with those that should not be named. Anyway, she asked two of our guys to come out and just check out her property, right? So they go out there, and she's definitely got some Sasquatch activity going on out there. And long story short, she gets introduced to this topic. She's in her like late 60s, still has like a part-time route up on the Apache Sitgreaves that she drives in her Jeep, whatever. But she starts getting the telepathy stuff, right? And like she seems to be really, really tuned into that for whatever reason. And they start talking to her. She starts having, this woman has had some of the most incredible experiences. But the one that I want to bring forward is, so a couple of years ago, she still works part-time for the Forest Service, and she's driving along one of her routes in the middle of nowhere in the Apache Sitgreaves, and she pulls her Jeep over to the spot where she likes to go relieve herself. So she's doing her business, and what she said was this, it was like a 15-foot video screen just went zzz, and opened up in front of her, like 10 feet in front of her, and she watched like a guy in like frontier attire with like a coonskin cap and like a flintlock musket go stalk left to right in front of her across this screen. And then just like that, it closed up. And she got this very ancient feminine voice in her head that said to her, "This is what I saw the first time I saw your people." That's all that was said. Right? It was like some Lewis and Clark looking dude. Right? And she's had like, if you ever met her, she is like the most realistic, authentic, not looking for exposure. Like this is just, and she's not crazy. You know what I mean? So like, and she's had those experiences. That's just an example of just some of the outlandishness that comes around this stuff. That would make that being like 400 years old. You know what I mean? Like it was 350 anyway. I mean, an old cat, so I don't know. I've got a litany of those stories since I've been around this bunch of guys.
Well, when you listen to all the people come forward with all the shit they share, and I listen to every single one of them, but it's almost like there's a difference. It's like we're changing the channels, and sometimes you get caught in between channels somewhere on the face of this.
I do.
Do you know what I mean? With all the, sometimes my lips don't mesh up in my brain. But as an example, Sarah, out back here in the river last summer, walking down there, all of a sudden here's all these sticks laid out perfectly, mathematically perfect in front of her. And then she goes, "Come here, look at this. They're gone."
Jesus, right? I mean,
Or how many people from around the globe have emailed in saying it's the middle of the night? All of a sudden it was broad daylight.
Oh,
and then went back to
completely. I've got that. The first time I met up with Kevin Keeney from the Arizona 4, right when I moved out here, I met him in person, and he took me out, right? And back in those days, they were still doing stuff like, like the gifting stuff, right, where we'd be leaving food items out, and they were smart about it. Like they put things on like that you would need opposable thumbs to lift up and take, whatever. They were smart, but so we walk out one night. The first night I'm there, and to see if anything had been taken. They were still doing that goofy shit, right? So, like, we're walking out to see if anything had been taken, and it's a new moon, so it is pitch black. We've got a little infrared flashlight that we, just to get ourselves out the trail. It's about an eighth of a mile away from where we're camping, and they'd had a lot of success with them taking things like that. So we're walking back. Now, mind you, we're way off trail. Like you have got to have the right vehicle to even make it back here. And so about 500 yards in front of us, it was like somebody turned on a stadium switch, right? And the entire forest, not where we were, but in front of us, lights up like a stadium. I mean, like it's high noon, right? There's no helicopter with a beam showing up. There's no discernible reason for this, and it wasn't like, oh, it's just a little brighter over there. No, this was like, coming at us. And I look over at Kev. This is my first time I've ever been out with any of these guys before doing this, and I'm like, dude, what is that?
Really,
Right?
you guys?
Right?
Really?
I'm like, Kev, I said, I'm sorry, man. What is going on over there? Right? He's like, man, I don't know, dude. So we walk up about another 100 yards, and it's like somebody flicked the switch and just blink, it just went out again, right? So I find out like the next day, I'm like, dude, I'm hitting the tent, like I'm out, I'm done, I don't have anything to do with this, like that was really weird. So this is a side note. This is maybe 20 miles as the crow flies where Travis Walton was abducted on the Mogollon Rim. It was right in the same neighborhood, man. Yeah.
Really?
And some of our guys know him. Like, he's, that's an interesting story. And I knew that story. I mean, seen the movie. I knew all of it. I heard him on,
Oh shit! I didn't know that was where you guys were. I didn't know that. I didn't know there was
timber
that.
section in the.
Ooh, that'd be a little
Yeah, there's a
unnerving,
lot
man.
of weird stuff going on up there, man. And that's right in the neighborhood where he's from Snowflake, Arizona. Like he's right just north of the Mogollon Rim, and that's where they did all their work. Yeah.
Shit.
Well, welcome to the neighborhood.
You know that guy?
Huh?
Do you know if that guy goes in the woods anymore?
I've never physically met him, but Kev has my buddy Wayne, one of the other guys, the Arizona 4. They know him, and I think he still does the deal. Like he's made a little bit of a name for himself on maybe the circuit, hitting conferences, and I mean, why not? I mean, but his stories,
You know what? I'm just picturing having that happen. I don't know if I'd even leave a subway. I got to move into a tunnel underground somewhere.
I mean, that story is.
You'd be going like this nonstop.
No, endlessly, and we've seen enough of that in the mountains. Like you've been out there. You can't be out in the wilderness looking up at the mountain skyline in the sky for as long as you have and not seen some weird stuff, man. Like stuff that just is, yeah. I mean, it's almost normal. You know what I mean? Like we don't even we got enough on our plate with the Bigfoot stuff. Like we'll see something going on over the Bradshaws or the Sierra Angeles, and it's like, whatever, we're good. I think there's a connection, but who knows, man?
Yeah, well, up where I got the knife returned up there, that's north of the Peace River, so it's north central BC. Clear night in camp, looking in the sky. I'm like, oh, holy shit! Well, there goes the Starlink thing. Oh, there goes another another satellite, But then all of a sudden, about a dozen different lights started going all over the frickin' place, and I actually started feeling a little anxious. I'm like, oh shit! Oh shit! I hope they don't come down here. I hope they're not coming down here.
That happened to Rob and Kevin. But same thing. Like they're way out in crazy town, and there's this. And Rob thought we were getting invaded. He goes, I don't know what that they said was like. It was like these like three lights that just kept interchanging, going around, and then moving in circles. And Kev said, "Well, I'm going to bed." He went to bed. Rob said he sat there and he's like, he had like Orson Welles in his head, like it's just the big one. You know what I mean?
I know. Doesn't that suck? It's like that's weird because that's my first feelings of being anxious. Like, oh shit. Well, how come it's just lights in the sky?
It just goes like we said. There's all kinds of stuff going on out there that we are so uneducated to. And that's.
We're raised to be scared shitless. We're raised to be scared of everything.
And then even ask yourself in some of these denominational, Christian denominations, like, why is this stuff never fleshed out? Like, it's okay. Genesis 6 is in the Bible. Why? What do they mean when they say there were giants in those days, and after the flood? Like, well, that's it. Then nobody ever talks about it. Like, okay, I'd go to church and listen to that from the pulpit. Why don't you break that down for me, man? But they don't. They don't do it. They don't really lean into any of it. Which is strange because it's weird, man.
So that night out, after that, was there a sound when the light got turned on? Was there a sound accompanying?
Metallic blink, no tree knock sound, whatever that tree knock stuff is. I don't. I just heard you talking about another one with a guy like it's them blinking in and out of their. Maybe it is, and I don't know. Like I've only heard that a few times in my life. It sounded like a Louisville Slugger beating against a tree, from what I could tell.
That was that Bashar dude that said that.
I'm not investigating that angle. I'm all set. Just about the time. I'm not buying any DVDs, brother.
Or else, like, I don't give a shit. Whatever you need to
Hey,
float your boat, I
maybe
don't
he's got
care.
a good message. I
But
don't know, man.
I don't know. I couldn't help myself though, because I keep seeing this bald guy on a bunch of pop-ups saying, "Oh, Bashar said this, Bashar said that." In front, I'm like, "Who the
Right?
hell is this Bashar dude, man?" Then I looked into it, and then I was driving home because we had this forest fire here, so I had to take like a
I
3-hour
saw that on
detour
your
logging
channel.
roads. Yeah, and then I finally got into service again. I put some headphones on. I listened to it as I was driving, and I don't know. He guess he's been at it for like 8 or 12 years or something. But then you look at it from every angle, right? Just rational thinking. All right. So this alien from another planet is channeling through this dude nonstop, bringing messages, and apparently, allegedly, said flat out they can appear in front of us anytime they want, but they chose to come here with ships because that was more acceptable or something. It's like, okay, I'd be like, "Hey, buddy, let's go in the back room. I got no phone open.
Yeah.
Pop in and pop out for me right now." Oh, wait a minute. By the way, you can also buy one of these charged crystals. It comes in this real nice box with our DVD. It said every alien from another planet every Friday.
Come on, man. Like, what?
No, I saw that. Yeah, was it yesterday before? Teach their own. I'm not saying anything bad, but you got to see the comedy in that. You got to see the comedy.
What I found? Right? I think the people that are furthest down the road in this thing, that may have the greatest amount of knowledge and experience, are people that you and I are never going to hear about ever. I think that maybe I've met some people by accident that were so deep, and I don't wonder if it's always by accident sometimes, but that are so deep, that are so unassuming about it, and so authentic, and yet have this I don't know if it's concrete knowledge, but concrete experience of what they're talking about. If we go, like you say, like I always say, like these definitive narratives and these people that speak in a surety about this stuff, that's an arrogant way to think, and it's an arrogant way to present, because I'm sorry, I don't care who you are. Like, I don't care who you are. Like, we don't know. We don't know. We don't know exactly what we're dealing with, what their backstories are, how they got here, nobody does.
I just keep looking at my dog, by the way, just to make sure everything's okay there. That's what I'm doing.
I've got a Great Pyrenees, but he just lays in the other room and just waits to be fed like 18 hours a day, that goes out and barks all night. But I get it, man.
Yeah. But get back to that topic, though. Could you imagine if you'd have pulled that fucked up wild card when you were born, and you're going through your life that you need everyone to follow you and follow your word. If you don't, I'm going to ruin you. Could you imagine being that person?
Man. That's literally what it is. And that's a mental illness more than anything else.
Right? Could you imagine getting that card in this lifetime?
That's where Hitler's come from, and that's where some of these other these ego maniacs, and that's all I see it. You can apply it to louder voices in the Sasquatch phenomenon, but it's across the board, politically, celebrity, all that crazy crap, man. I don't have any time for it. Like, none, man. I despise those people, and I feel sad for them.
Yeah, if you're not a fisherman and you use a casting rod, you're a piece of shit.
Right.
It goes with everything.
Because I know better than you. Okay.
What a weird characteristic to throw into the
genetics,
right?
Too, right? Who knows? Like, yeah, it takes all kinds, and we see it across the spectrum. You know what I mean? Totally, we do. I don't know. I don't vibe with people like that. I run from it. I want to be around guys that have made mistakes in their life, and guys that can take accountability for what they do. Yeah. That's what I try and be.
That's why I keep trying to say: take from it what you need, or leave the rest. Right. It's not hard to do. But it is hard for a lot of people, it's so hard for a lot of people. And even though you try
I see like angry, rage-filled comments in some of the, where what I'm talking about, and people that are like, if you're not vibing on their narrative or on their belief system, they can't handle it. You know what I mean? Like it creates rage and anger. And I I don't want to mock them. I just feel like, how did you get to be so small-minded and such a, absolutist that you can't leave any room for perspective, man? That's just weird to me.
So weird, right? It's really, really weird.
It is,
creepy.
Man.
It's like, remember we were having Remember, I know it was a couple of years ago, we had a bit of a bout of flat
Yeah.
earthers.
Oh
There's
no.
a little bit of a tornado of flat earthers coming
I
through.
do not
And,
engage, man. You know.
well, I was getting flooded with emails. So once I get flooded, and then I get frustrated. I'm like, all right, enough is enough. I don't give a shit. I don't care. The water's awesome. The fish are great. They're swimming. The river's flowing. The forests are great. I don't give a shit what shape it is. I really don't care.
They are a committed bunch, man. And
I know, but it's weird how many at that time. You don't get it. If you don't accept the world's flat, you're never going to accept anything or go anywhere.
Nothing's changed.
Okay, thanks for coming out
in my life because of that possibility. Regardless, you know what I mean. Like it doesn't affect.
I appreciate the input. Thank you so much. Now moving along with the show.
I'm going on a hike. You know, like it goes down. I go to bed. You know, like I don't. It doesn't really affect me. Like you said, if I want to go swim in the ocean's right there.
It's working. It's working. Whatever shape it is, I don't give a shit. It's working for me. Moving along. But they can't let you move along. Like, no, we're not going anywhere until you jump on my bandwagon, you know, and off you go.
It's almost like you have an awakening that maybe there's something else going on that you're not aware of, but you get stuck in that one thing, man, and you're not really awakening anymore. You know what I mean? Like you just hammered back into the corner. I'm good, man.
Another sentence.
It is.
Another sentence, right? Another shitty deal of the cards, and you couldn't escape it.
You got tricked again, is all it is. You know what I mean? Whether it's real or not, like you just got played. You know, like seriously.
Yeah. So where do you guys go from here? You take it. Do you guys? Well, I guess you haven't, but you haven't really plateaued yet, have you?
You know, I don't. I think there's times where we thought we have, and we get a little discouraged. And then something really bizarre that hasn't happened before will happen, and we'll be like, okay. I think that, you know, we go out, and many times it's just four retards sitting around around a camp with nothing happening. You know what I mean? And we just bust balls and enjoy each other's company and make good food, and nothing goes on. You know what I mean? And you know, so one thing we don't do anymore is we don't try and provoke responses. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like these idiots out there banging on trees or the gifting stuff or whatever that looks like to try and provoke a response. I think we found we haven't needed to do that. Like they're either going to engage or they're not. It's never been on our terms or from anything we've done. You know what I mean? So once we figure that out, it takes a lot of patience and recognizing that, you know, this could be enjoy the experience regardless. You know, so if we plateaued, I hope not. You know, I think that as much as we like to say we're not trying to get to the bottom of it all, I'm sure there's still a bit of that in all of us that would love some more understanding and some more knowledge about, you know, what's going on, man. Like, who are you? You know, why do you engage with us? Why do you not engage with them? Where do you come from? Where do we come from? We would love these deep answers, maybe answered by them at some point. I don't know that that's ever going to happen. But it's a possibility. And in the meantime, you know, I've got to see just some of the most amazing, fantastic things. And I'm so grateful for that. I don't plan on stopping as long as my body keeps going. You know, all of us are like that, you know. And the other thing is, honestly, we are so close. Like these are the greatest friends I've ever had in my life, you know? Like yeah, you know,
like cool.
I was one of the guys from Arizona before married me and my wife. We're super close. We support each other. Like Kev's having a pacemaker put in this morning, and you know, like and our wives and significant others are all close. It's just this great bonding friendship that came out of this. You know, we're totally different walks of life, and that's been one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me. Is just that type of authentic friendship.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like anything bad's come out of this for you guys.
Even with our friend that we kind of lost a little bit from, you know, some of the other weirdness. I mean, if you called me tomorrow and needed help, I'd show up, and you know, we're very supportive of each other, and I think we're just still some of us sometimes we look back at what we consider kind of mundane activity, which would blow people's frigging minds, and sometimes like we've got to remember that, like, you know, when we see something or some of the light manifestation or some of the more extraordinary things that happen, I don't ever want to take that for granted, man. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't happen for other people all
Yeah,
the time. It's really unique and cool.
yeah, yeah. Have you ever had any lights in your house?
Not at this house. I mean, back when I lived in Rhode Island, I had some orb activity in my yard and on my porch, not necessarily inside the house. This stuff seems to have followed me, like wherever I've been, on some level, just the weird stuff. And I was very quiet about that. I remember my ex-wife being really spooked out by some of it. And that's not like I was shoving it down her throat. It was just stuff that happened on our property that was strange, and so not inside the house, but I've had it happen on my property and on my porch before. Not at this house in the mountains, which is strange because I would have think that I've had something happen here, but so far nothing. Do
You
you?
got them in
Oh,
here.
I'm sure. I mean, you're up at ground zero anyway. You know what I mean? And really, I always think that section of the world is it's kind of a mecca. I mean, I believe these guys are probably everywhere at this point. Like I don't think that it
Yeah, they are.
necessarily necessitates trees and rivers either. I think that we have activity. Look,
Been in
you
the
go up to
desert,
Navajo,
desert
go up to the
plains,
Navajo Res,
remote missile silos,
go up
North
to the
Dakota.
Navajo Res. Like there isn't a tree for 100 miles. You know what I mean? And yet these guys have some of the most insane all around activity up there. You know what I mean? And just really crazy stuff. And so I
Oh,
don't.
yeah. So, have you guys ever had? Have you ever come across the unmarked vehicles, heavily armed government type
No,
people anywhere
no.
ever? Helicopters?
I
Anything?
don't think we've been on anybody's radar. Um, when I was out with the guy we both know of in Colorado, I saw that with him. But he's been,
What? What did you see?
we're up in the high Rockies near Vail, and we're out at a location that is one of the most otherworldly places for like that structure stuff you will ever see. And while we're up there, two Blackhawks come around and they circle where we're at. He videoed it. Like this has happened to him. It's happened often. Like on a like the degree of frequency. I've never had like an unmarked vehicle. That's the only time that's ever happened that I was witness to it. But with the Arizona four guys, never, never. I mean, you'd have to go out. Yeah, you'd
What's
have
up
to
with
go
that?
out of your way to find us. You know what I mean? Like it would be hard. Like unless like your car's bugged, like they'd have a difficult time tracking us anyway. But I don't. I think part of it is because we've never been very outspoken in public about it. You know what I mean? Like I've done an interview or two, and I did that thing with the Flash of Beauty guys a year ago, which was I'm still debating whether that was a good idea or not a good idea. But I was happy to do it because I think they're wonderful people, and I think they're another great authentic platform to maybe get some information out, regardless. So I don't know. I don't know why it happens because I've done I've seen things online where like strange things happen today. You know what I mean? Like, you start talking about some of the more paranormal aspects of this thing and strange occurrences, some to randomly occur, like, connections get cut off or the internet goes down or weird stuff happens like that. Who knows, man? Right?
Batteries
Yeah,
dying.
batteries died. We've had that happen numerous times. Back when we were
Really?
back when we were still
Really?
filming, and they used to not go anywhere without a video camera, and
And they came back. The same batteries
just
came
happened
back
with
on their
Kev
own.
and his wife. They were up on they do a family outing up on the rim every year. They bring a big cam up, and they had both batteries, backup batteries, everything fully charged. And one of the spots is pretty close to one of our spots where they like to camp and go. And they get out of the car, and Brenda went to use it. Just watch the whole thing go, just die. You know what I mean? And it's right in our locations too. So it's a thing, right? I mean, you've heard about this type of occurrence forever.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
Did the juice
when
come
they got
back
back
on
in
its
the
own?
car and they were leaving and heading down to the highway, everything just fired back up like normal, right?
No shit. What a topper
Right?
is that one?
Like, who knows, man? They seem to possibly be able to manipulate energy to do their bidding, and I bet that goes for batteries and electronic, hardware and computers. So Kevin had a a laptop, and he had a back in the day we used to leave a parabolic recorder on at night just to see if anything. We're doing the research deal, and so he got some pretty incredible audio, like Moorhead level audio, like just insane. And he lost every bit of it. He would transfer it from this recorder onto his hard drive, and the entire files, for no reason, this had never happened over the years that he's been out there, were just corrupted. You could listen to them on the recorder itself, but you couldn't transfer them, and there's no discernible reason for it. We just took it as a sign that that's not meant for public consumption, my friends, and so that we just let it go with that, right?
Crazy. Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, man. The weirdness, it just kind of goes with the territory at this point. I feel like, like I said, I've never felt menaced other than that one time in my room back in the day, and I've had them reach in and grab my shoulder in a tent one time in a new location. That scared me. Yeah, yeah. I got up to take a leak, right? And for some reason, I was expelling more liquid than I had taken for whatever. It sometimes happens when I'm up elevation, like it takes my body a night to adjust. So the first night we're out at this new location we call West Side, right? And we've been there for a couple of days, and it was kind of a weird thing. Like there was activity there. It was like we know that you know that we know that you know. Let's just leave it at that. We had like a rock thrown out. It's like it wasn't a friendly welcome, but it wasn't like I didn't feel frightened. So that night I gotten up like 5 times to take a leak, right? So I'm feeling bad because Kevin and I are sharing this 10-man tent. I got to unzip. I feel like I'm going to wake him up every freaking time I go out. And I was sleeping with my head down towards the tent flap. So I left the zipper open and I doze off, right? And all of a sudden, like this hand reaches in and grabs my shoulder, and talk about a pucker moment, dude. Like I jumped like 10 feet, whoa, right? So I looked over, and Kevin's snoring away in the cot next to me, and so I go outside, and I'm like, yo, hey, just leave me alone. I just want to sleep, right? And on the other side of the tent, I hear this, like, and then it just walked away. Like that happened, and then nobody bothered me for the rest of the night. So, yeah, right.
Scream like a girl guy
I
getting
did
grabbed.
scream like a girl. Let's be very clear. I puckered hard. That one scared me, but I'm fairly sure it was just a practical joke thing. Like I felt like almost like a juvenile kind of prank. You know what I mean? Like in hindsight, at the time, I had one of those ruka ruka moments where I was checking my shorts. But I think that as I look back on it, I never felt like nothing else happened. You know what I mean? And then the next couple of days we were there, the energy got a lot more friendly and whatever. But it was that's another thing. Like we don't all agree on. Like some of these guys think these guys have some sort of hive mind consciousness and like what one knows they all know. I don't think that's the case. I never thought that was the case. I think that they're individualistic. I think they can find out about you in ways pretty quick. I think they can talk to some guy 30 miles away and be like, hey, you ever seen these cats before? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, they're okay. I don't know, but I just kind of get that impression that they can communicate with each other in different ways than maybe we seem to be able to. Maybe we used to be able to. I don't know.
Well, when you think about it, it is a bit of a bold statement for a mere mortal human being to dictate to the crowd. One knows,
Right,
they all
right.
know.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah. I don't think that's true.
How'd you figure that one out?
Who told you that? Who told you that?
If you know that, you know a shitload.
I think that experientially we found that not all of our locations are right next to each other. We've got 100 miles in between some of them that we've gone to, and yet it seems that we've had some visitation and some interaction with the same ones 100 miles away from where we had them before, and that's happened a few times. So I don't know that the distance and things like of that nature I don't think there's any such thing as a migration pattern with these guys. You know what I'm saying? Like I pretty sure that.
No.
And I think what you've said in the past is I don't think they're here all the time, and I don't think that they require space in a physical way like perhaps humanity does or we do. You know what I mean? I think there's a different element to them that I don't think we've ever really fleshed out.
Oh, there's something's going on. Something's going on right alongside us,
Oh
real
yeah.
close
I mean,
somewhere.
it's obviously we know like we see in a certain visual spectrum, and that's all we see. But then that spectrum increases dramatically outwards, and like dogs and cats and things that see in other kind of visual range that we do, just because we don't see it. I mean, I've had these things all around me and haven't been able to see them. I mean, that's happened multiple times.
Yeah.
I've also seen them in a full physical form, and I've seen them be there for 1 second and then they're not. You know what I mean? And it doesn't like so I don't know what that
Yeah.
is. I don't know how they do it or why what that means. But without a doubt, there's stuff going on around us that we just don't physically lay eyes to.
I forget the name of the guy. And I feel in a shame, not shame, but I just feel bad. I forget the name of this guy. But there's a guy in Alaska, a doctor, I believe, and he's got a book out because I think he sent me one of his books and said I could share any stories I'd ever wanted. God, I forget his name. I feel like a dick for forgetting it, but I do remember him saying that when he was forced to accept the fact that some weird shit's going on, they're at this area doing their thing, making the calls and sounds and shit. And then he had to drive a significant distance to get home. And the second he got out of his car at home, the exact same sounds come out of the forest right behind
Dr.
his
Robert
garage.
Allen, I think that's who. Yeah, Dr.
Is that who it
Allen.
is?
He's interesting. And I'm almost sure that's who you're talking. I don't know for certain. I'm pretty sure that's who you're talking. I remember that story anyway. I do remember, and I think you go back to even Scott Carpenter. Like he'd drive 80 miles up into the Smokies and come home, and next thing you know, they're right there in his property. You know what I mean? Like the same ones, right? His neighbor saying, "Oh, there's a kid in a black hoodie sitting in a tree over your house." Oh, okay. I don't think that's what that was. So yeah, I don't think they can move around differently.
Well, it's moments like. Yeah, it's notes like that have made a little nest on a shelf in the back of my head along the ride. You know what I mean? Oh,
yep.
It's like, oh, note taken because for me in the beginning, I quit guiding for a couple of years and I was living in ground zero. I mean, I'm right toss and throw for where Albert Ostman got kidnapped. We're living there. And I'm like, all right, I told you my guiding history. I know how to do it. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go looking for these guys.
I've never heard you talk about this.
It didn't take long to figure out. It didn't take long for me to figure out something weird's going on. And I mean, not long.
You can't be around this. Really invest some time and energy into it and not come up real quick that there is a non-physical, paranormal strangeness.
Right?
That's why.
Doesn't take long at all.
Crew, like, I just can't. Like you all seem like intelligent men. Like, how are you just divesting yourself of this other whole part of this thing? It makes no sense to me. Like, that's not what's happening, bro.
No, and then if they answered honestly, this is how they'd answer. Hold on a second, I'm just gonna check my bank account. 1 second.
Exactly. The royalties are coming in from our last season show. Shut up now. You know what I mean? Like, seriously. Like, that's what I. Yeah. Thanks.
As one of the pieces of shit that we talked about earlier, his friend emailed me and said flat out, he told him, as long as they keep paying for my trout fishing trips, I'll tell the public whatever they want.
And that's all you need to hear. That goes for a lot of these cats, man. And God bless them. Like, they haven't helped anything. They haven't educated a soul. Not a soul, Like, what education?
And then you get a couple assholes like myself and whoever come out and put a quick end to that one, right? Guess what?
You lured us in. You know what I mean? Because that's what we always thought, I think, was that if we found a public vehicle for this that was authentic to what it was, like that's where we would engage, And that's like this is ground zero for us publicly. It always was. You know what I mean? Like that was. And we love that,
I think everybody here as a group, it's not me, it's everybody here. Everybody here as a group has become quite powerful, not powerful, but I mean, it's just a great force. And it's making, like you said, you mentioned there's some other people out there that you don't know who they are, and they're not around anywhere, and they got some shit going on. And those people are slowly starting to trickle in.
It's the truth. And I've made some connections with some of these folks that are just, and some of them are just like the most real, authentic, usually fairly well spiritually grounded, I will say too, that I've ever met. You know what I mean? That like finding those commonalities and linking up. And I don't think that like these people get put into my life when I open myself up to it by accident. I think it flows that way for some reason because I've made, Steve, I've met some of the greatest friends and people I've ever met in my life that were engaged in this. More than you guys that I'm closer to, the guys I grew up with. You know what I mean? Like, and just I think that there seems to be almost like a design to it almost, or maybe just water seeks its own level, or there's some synchronicity to it, and I don't know. That makes my eyes glaze over when I think too hard about it, but I been my experience with it,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
me talking to you. That's a perfect example.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was just gonna say, like on that note, so far I'm batting at 100 for every single person I've had come on here, which isn't that many, but it's starting to get. It's going to get up there. But everybody seems to be real chill, well grounded, and totally connected. Got their shit together
Right?
between
I
their
mean, I
ears.
still got my warts, man. I've still got human frailties, and challenges, but that's been my experience too. Like the people that I open up to that have opened up to me about this, like we resonate on a totally identical vibe. You know what I mean? Like, my buddy, like
Right?
you weren't a squatcher when I started watching you, and I started paying attention to you way back when. You know what I mean? And then, like I told you before we started, just how an amazing uh, effect that had on me in other areas of my life, and it improved
Yeah, yeah.
my life in the most like I don't just mean materially. I mean internally in some of the greatest ways, man. And I have so much gratitude for it. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it opened up these doors that I had closed again in my life because of my own behaviors. It just, I'm so it's been incredible. And if I lean into it like this, if I lean into it, man, nothing but good ever happens in the long term from it. Like ever. It's the best, man. It's the best thing.
I mean, nothing bad's happened yet
No,
that I
man,
know
it's
of. I don't
awesome.
think so.
It's what a great conversation,
You stalkers,
right?
but
Yeah, well,
whatever.
yeah, you've got that public side of this thing. That's always going to attract. I mean, you've got your soulmate brother out there you haven't met yet. That's just got to come down your driveway, just so you know, and he needs to see your phone right now, man.
Right? Now it's funny when you talk about how everybody's got their shit together between the years that come on here, but then there's the little devil, the little prick on this one show that's kind of deep down hoping for a
Right,
psychopath to make their way
right.
through to being on here
Yeah,
live with
yeah.
me one day,
Let,
just for the
let me
entertainment
let me let
value,
me
right?
give you the full show, Fred. Come right on in, man. Right,
Wouldn't
right,
that be great?
right.
Because there's
Yeah,
no way I
yeah,
just shut off the camera. I'd
yeah.
be, oh yeah, let's keep
First
this
off, let me
going.
see your phone.
Wouldn't that be awesome though? If a full-on psychopath made their
Oh,
way on here
we
with
had
me,
the
that'd be
worst move in
great.
their life, man. Like I mean, let's not wish ill. Let's not wish
Awesome.
ill on anybody. However, I would like to get the back channel report on that one someday.
Oh, I'd be posting. Are you
Yeah,
kidding? I don't
yeah.
hide shit. I don't give a shit.
Yep.
That shit,
Here's
that's
a
gold.
picture of Sarah with the latest steelhead, and here's the guy that just came down my driveway last week, back to back.
Oh yeah. Well, okay, there's some shit I would admit to
Well,
publicly, but what?
you need to be in Arizona, not up there, to be able to get away with it. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, where have you gone? Where have you guys gone? Have you guys gone like geographically, reached out and gone to different places and tried to shit out anywhere else? Or
I
you just
have.
hang out at home?
Like most of these guys are pretty local to our location. They're a bunch of old Arizona hillbillies. You know what I mean? And for lack of a better term, all of them are vets except for me. So they've done some world travel, but in this thing, I'm the only one that's really been all over. But I was doing that before I linked up with these guys. I actually just drug three of them up to Oregon with me a month ago to hit the Cascades and check that scene out. And I've been to Alaska, all through the Midwest, Southwest, the southern part of the United States. Like I've always had a wander bug anyway. You know what I mean? And so I've had the opportunity to.
Alaska's
Yeah.
awesome.
Oh,
I love
dude,
Alaska.
so I would love to come in through the Yukon and go through the interior. I've not done that. That is a bucket lister for me. Like that's happening in the next 2 years. I just don't know how.
It's pretty good. Alaska's like freaking wicked, but like if you do Alaska Highway, as soon as you leave, you get past Prince George, you go through Pine Pass, then you get to the eastern slopes, and then it's just like spruce on either side of the highway
Right
for a
on.
long time until you get past Fort Nelson. And there's one area called, it's the highest point of Alaska Highway in the Rock Cut. And then it's pretty interesting for about 2 hours. Then it goes to spruce on either side of the highway till you get to the Yukon. Then it gets kind of cool. So you're not missing too much in
just
between.
experiencing the whole thing, man. Like I have drugged my poor wife out to some whack locations, you know, just whack. You know, like I'm not a big hiker per se, but I'm a big petroglypher. You know what I mean? So like if there's petroglyphs 7 miles out and some remote hike, we're going. You know what I mean? I just want to go see them. You know what I mean? I live for that kind of want to be Indiana Jones exploring stuff. I love that stuff, man. You know, love it.
I got another quick question before I forget it. So feeling the pressure. So all these, do you know what I'm talking about when I say I feel that pressure?
You know what? I think it manifests not identically, but similarly in all of us. So I've like what you say. I've always since I've been in this thing felt like I had an affinity to pick up that energy. You know what I mean? Like I can tell when something's going on. You know, I can tell, like I could always, back in the day, I think I always knew exactly where to point the camera. I would feel, and a lot of our locations have a different, for lack of a better term, I like to call it an energy signature. You know what I mean? And I can detect it and the differences between it whenever we go to one of these spots. Some of them have a more, I guess, sacred vibe. Some of them have a more mischievous vibe. You know what I mean? Like there's a different energy level. But when I've had the zapping phenomenon occur multiple times, which is, I think, exactly kind of what you're talking about. You're detecting it, and you can feel I feel it behind my neck and up into the back of my head, like this, you know. And then I felt like the energy burst too. I've had that happen. Like the night that they healed, my hand was the most significant one. I'll talk about it if you like.
What's an energy burst?
Okay, you know what a TENS unit is? You know, like a TENS unit.
What?
So it's an electrical box that looks like a Sony Walkman, right? And a lot of times, like physical therapy will give it to you. It's got like two wires that come out of it, but attached to diodes, and they'll put it on your arm or somewhere where they want to stimulate like muscle repair and muscle growth. And so a little electrical kind of, you crank it up and the level gets stronger. It's a common thing in medical field and physical therapy. So that's what that feels like to me. It's like somebody attaches a TENS unit to the back of my neck and then cranks it all the way up. You know what I mean? To like maximum output. Yeah, it doesn't hurt, but it'd be like sticking your finger in a light socket, but not getting a painful discharge, but getting the electrical feeling. That's what it feels like. You know, that's common. That's what happened the night with my hand. So the night that I found that rock behind my back, right? Like this is what happened that night. So I go to bed and I'd taken my arm out of this weird sling thing because it hurt my shoulder to sleep in with it, right? And I'm so blown out, man. I'm detoxing from the medication they'd given me for 3 months. I mean, I was not well, you know. And I get awakened at like 2:00 in the morning, like somebody stuck one of those TENS unit things on the back of my neck, but then cranked it up to like the maximum output, right? And I got this electrical charge that went from my neck down to my feet and back up to my neck again and coursed through my whole body. And it was like the zapping thing that we're talking about, but on steroids. Like it was exponentially stronger, you know? And and I know, like I've been around this thing long enough. Okay, this is related to these guys. I know it's them, and it subsides, and I don't really think anything of it. I'm like, I got to tell Kevin about this one in the morning. You know what I mean? And I fall back asleep, and then the next morning I woke up and we had bibs on because it's freezing cold up in 8,000 foot elevation, whatever. And so I go to unzip my bibs and I do it with my right hand, which was just muscle memory. And here's my hand now, right? And the injury was severe, and as the zipper's halfway down my body, I realize what I'm doing, and I go to rotate my hand and my arm, something I couldn't do 6 hours before, and all the pain from my hand was gone and my arm was gone, shoulder was gone, and I had full range of motion, but I couldn't even lift my arm up over like this. Like it had just disappeared overnight, you know. And so I know that they did it. Like I don't say I know a lot of things about the Bigfoot stuff, but I know they did this, you know. And yeah, man, you know,
Crazy.
and I had witnesses to it. Kevin and this other guy were there. They saw the whole thing. They were my best friends. They knew the nature
Yeah.
of the injury from the rib, you know. And like I sat down and I tied my boots for the first time, and I was able to do stuff that I just was literally my whole upper right extremity had been rated 100% fully disabled before this happened, and it's not, you know. And it changed everything in my life. Like I mean, I wrote in about it. You know the story. Like I walked out. I was crying because I was just all the trauma I'd been through, and I walked down the trail to compose myself. You know, I don't want to be tears come out of my face in front of my friends. You know, and I say out loud, I want to thank you for what you've done. And I had this like projection of like selflessness and compassion and love just like generated onto me. It changed me as a human being. It was the most profound thing
Shit.
that's ever occurred to me. You know, and I say all the time, like you know, I've kept that lesson. Like I can get malicious, and I can get sarcastic, and I can get judgy, and I can get arrogant, and I can get mean. And then I think about that feeling that they put on me, and it like centers me right back to like how I should be behaving and acting in my life. You know what I mean? It was just the most beautiful lesson I could ever have. And bro, I am not some Bible thumping weirdo, man. Like I am just I'm a recovering
Yeah.
junkie and alcoholic that's done some questionable things in his life, you know, and I come at it from that perspective. Like it changed so much in my life. It made me, I like to think, a better person, you know what I mean? And I thank uh, the Sasquatch phenomenon and that specific thing for doing that for me, you know? And like, and I would say,
Yeah.
you know, our experiences are just a segment on the spectrum of experience with this because we've had these incredible uplifting healings and incredible encounters occur. And yet there's things on the other end of the pendulum that are the opposite of that happen in this. You know what I mean? So why does that happen and why doesn't it? I couldn't answer that, you know? But that's my hand thing.
You know what's amazing? You know, yeah. When you got all this shit going down, this incredible skill, whatever they got, however they can pull this off, and they pull it off. But you can't just sit down and have a bullshit
Right?
session for 5 minutes.
Like,
You know?
yeah,
Like,
like
come
I
on!
would love for one of these things to come out and crack a kilt lifter and sit down and say, I'm gonna break it down for you. You know what I mean? And it hasn't happened yet, man.
Right?
You know what I mean? I've had them come into the camp like that. You know, I've had them show up and show themselves to us, but nobody's ever sat down and said, now I'm gonna give you guys now I'm gonna school you, you know, and that's what kind of
Wouldn't that be crazy if it
oh
went down
man.
one day?
You know what? I would pray that it does. You know what I mean? It's how's about just giving me some insight? You know what I mean? Like what's going on?
It'd be tough one to wrap your. It'd be tough one to wrap your noodle around, knowing what you know to date and how long you've been learning, and then all of a sudden, a mortal human being, like say me, all of a sudden next week, dude, you're not going to believe what happened. I just had this freaking conversation back and forth for like
Right?
45 minutes. They didn't want a beer, so I gave it an orange juice and I had a
Right?
Coke, and we just, you know what I mean? It'd be real hard to wrap your noodle around that
Hey,
happening to
you
any
know
human
what? You would
being right
hope
now,
like there'd be a witness
be like,
to it. You know what I mean? At least two people there. You know, like,
right? Be like, what
I'm
you
going to
talking
tell
about,
you
Willis?
this, but you're never going to believe it. You know?
You know, all of a sudden 2 weeks there, fuck, you wouldn't believe what fucking came out of
Exactly,
Steve now.
man.
God,
Exactly, brother. We've been going for 3 hours, my man.
you need to pre-plant a safe word for
Right?
everyone, whatever, right? But it would be frustrating. Like, I mean, I'm definitely in no position to want to be first at fucking anything. I don't give a flying shit, you know what I mean? But it would almost be a sentence if that did go down
Well,
for me or anybody. It's like, oh my god,
like
who's
if
gonna
you
believe
didn't
this
have
shit?
at least another person there to validate it for you, you know that you're right. It would be a sentence like, how could you even like? They tell you this, and the other thing you got to remember is like, and they got to be telling you the truth too. You know what I mean? Like I don't. I'm sure that they're capable of some deception and being dishonest. People are. Why wouldn't they be? You know what I mean? So you know, who knows if they're even. You know, they go back to their peeps and be like, You'll never believe what I just told this dude. Meanwhile, you think you've got the answers to life.
Right? Yeah. No. How about this one?
Right.
How about this one? After this hunting season, after this next elk hunt coming up, I come back and I go, dude, you're not going to believe this. I'm number 14 of the Council of 12 now.
You've supplanted the 13. I hope this one makes it onto the recording.
13's taken. 13's taken.
That would be epic. That would be epic.
I know what. I know, but we almost have to make an agreement that if something like that happens, I'll pay your airfare. You come up and kick me in the balls as hard as you can. Right?
If you come on next week and say, I'm breaking it all down for you. This is what it is. I think somebody got to him. Somebody got to him.
How about this one? I should almost do a comedy because obviously in real life, it's fucking comedy in my life nonstop. But it'd be funny if all of a sudden I come up with a segment. Okay, everybody, I had a conversation. But before we get going, I've got these lovely charged crystals that come in this lovely box.
No, don't do it.
It's only $29.99. And I got a DVD. And I got something else to share. I'm now number 14 of the Council
and they
of 12.
all approved it.
But wait, it doesn't end there. For only $189 Canadian a weekend, you can come and stay in my yard. And chances are a marble might be outside of your tent.
The marble thing, hey, I don't understand that. Like, Patterson swears that's going on, Well, maybe it is for him, Like, he's got weird shit out of it.
Yeah, I can't say it isn't. I'm not referring to him when I'm saying it either. I'm referring to the other guy.
I know exactly what you mean. I just thought it was marble.
Wouldn't that be awesome if I just rallied it all up in one package and started peddling that in one video?
I'm happy to have a How to Hunt decal on the back of my truck and a hat. And occasionally, I will maybe try and come up and go fishing from Banfield with you next year. I'll do that. That all seems legit. But if you say we're taking a detour and for another $400, we're going to head up into no, we're not.
Maybe I should just set up the camera and a tripod in the woods on myself and pretend I'm talking to a bush, saying I'm applying for the number 14th position. Please.
I don't know that you're the first to have thought of that because I've seen a lot of weird stuff with cameras, man. Like I'm sure there's for people nominating themselves for that position as we speak.
Oh my God. I mean, it's funnier shit. Especially it's funny just to chuck some shit around, but imagine being that person listening to us talking right now.
Like, mental illness comes in all forms, brother. You know what I mean? It does. It does.
I know. Now, so as soon as this airs, I'm going to be like 2 weeks away from my next visitor coming down the driveway. I want to talk to you
and I are going to have a chat. I don't approve of you. So sorry.
Oh, my God. Holy fuck. That's some funny shit, man.
This has been awesome, man. The way I figured, we'd always thought for the last couple of years that you were going to venture down into Arizona and meet up with us. And it's just that last time you were down close to us, you got an eye infection and had to bug out. You know what I mean?
Fuck, I was that close. Full on. I was going. My eyes. Did you see the pictures I posted?
I saw it happen. And I was like, you know what, guys? It is what it is. You know what I mean? Like, we weren't holding our breath anyway. But to me, it was like, this was awesome because, what was the old saying? If Muhammad won't come to the mountain, then the mountain will come to Muhammad. So I'm so grateful to have a chance to sit down, man. This is a chat that was very important to me internally anyway, because I loved it, man. I loved every second of it.
Oh, yeah, it's great. It's awesome. We're going to post it up and share it. Hopefully don't forget, don't shut anything off on your shit.
Up for another hour. I'm going to go take a shower and do my thing, man. I need another cup of coffee, too.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, because right now this one says it's only 59% uploaded on my end, and I got to let it run until it's 100%. So I might take the dog. I don't even know what it
looks like on mine because I'm doing it from my phone, so it's kind of got a different format, so I don't even see the upload. It says 77 minutes going. That's all I see. That's in this. And then I think we had a little bit of a snafu break for some of the recording because I ended up leaving the studio and coming back in. That was the only way I could get back in with you.
Oh, so yours says 99% uploaded. Mine's 59%. So I'm the one that lost the internet connection.
It was. Sure. I wasn't sure because I did it for I had a phone call and I hit decline, and it seems like right after that things started to get a little screwy. But we'll figure it out. You know how to splice these things.
Well, yeah. Then another thing that happened before with another guy was he shut his shit off before it fully uploaded. And then I got on there and said, how do you fix this? And it said all that person had to do was re-log on, and then it kept on uploading. So I'm just saying, if you lost connection, it's not a loss. We can still crack it open. It'll continue to upload.
I think that's what happened this time because my understanding is that it's still going and that I'm just going to let it sit for another 45 minutes while I go do some other shit. And then I figure out this.
Yeah. Well, I haven't hit stop record yet, so you still got to sign off. You got anything you want to say to anybody?
I want to say to the other members of the How to Hunt community that I am so proud and grateful to be part of this community. I have been since day one. There's been no better platform in my experience, which is fairly extensive in the Sasquatch world, to get some truth and get some voices out. We may not all agree on everything, but I think the best part is the supportiveness of each other, and I hope that continues, man. And it has been an absolute honor and pleasure to be here today. And we intend to keep sending in emails as things happen that we think are of note, that you guys will like, and that Steve will like. And other than that, man, I'm just grateful to be here, and thank you so much.
No, dude, it's nothing without you, man. We're just one big we're all just one big family. Nobody's responsible for shit. It's like nothing without everybody.
I'm going to give a nod to your significant other, who is so kind and engaging on the back channels with me. She's taught me through how to get on this. I'm a tech idiot, and she's the one. The only reason we're sitting here talking is because Sarah made the time to go step by step, like podcast for dummies for me. So thank you.
Yeah. She'll be back, I think, this Saturday. She's coming home.
All right, brother. Okay, man. I'll talk to you soon, man. And thank you so much. I'll leave the phone going. You bet.
Yeah, take care, man. Say hi to the rest of the fellas. Say hi to the rest of the fellas.
It says if I want, do I hit leave, but leave the thing up? I don't know. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to do that.
Well, hold on. I'll hit stop, but yeah, and I have full plans. Like I say, if I say I'm going to do something, I do it. So that means I will be in the woods with you guys.
You're more than welcome.
As long as I don't have to be the little spoon with the big spoon. I like sleeping my own sleep.
I got a spare bedroom here up in the mountains in Prescott that's got your name on it, man. Anytime, Steve. Seriously, anytime.
All right, man.
All right. All right. You bet. Take care,
brother. Appreciate it, man. You too. I'll talk to you again later.